Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Ushi and welcome back to another true crime episode with me. Every week or so I sit down and then I talk about a true crime case that has shook as well as shocked the nation. Today we are going to talk about the case of Kenneth Bunge Orina. On the 9th of June 2007, a man walks into the police station of Grootfontein. He is met with the station commander, Inspector Dilula. His name was Kenneth Bunge Orina. At the time of today's case was only 34 years old. He looked disheveled, his clothes were torn, he looked dirty, and he had marks all over his body. Now the inspector was asking him what was going on, why did he look this way? He told the inspector that the reason why he looked like this is because he had a fight with his wife. Kenneth was married. Kenneth and Rose were married. They were not legally married, but they were traditionally married. Together they had one child. But their relationship was somehow toxic. Okay, not somehow. It was like totally toxic because Kenneth reported to the police officers that Rose would beat him, she would kick him, she would bite him. She was a very physically violent person. Kenneth was scared of Rose, and he had actually come to ask the police to take Rose into custody and then detain her for a couple of days so that he can actually get arrangements or arrange to take Rose back to Kenya, because that is where they were originally from. Kenneth and Rose were both Kenyan citizens who were currently living as well as working in Namibia as nurses. Kenneth was a theater nurse, but his job description was basically him being in the operating room with the surgeon and then handing the surgeon tools like scalpel, this. He was a surgeon assistant, according to the reports. Well, he was busy telling the police officers about, how he was being attacked by Rose, his wife. This is when Rose also came to the police station to come report the same thing. So basically, Kenneth arrived at the police station and then Rose arrived a few minutes later. She started telling the police officers that it was actually Kenneth who was the aggressive one. But the police officers, when they were listening to this case, they actually came to the conclusion that both of them were aggressive and toxic to one another. The police officers referred them to the Grootfontein Magistrate Court. With that, Inspector Dilula sent Kenneth and Rose back home to their Grootfontein residence. So between June and July, the toxicity continued. The fights continued. The fights were really physical, guys. Windows being broken. We are talking about things being thrown out of the house. So that literally all their neighbors and everybody on the compound, they knew that the two of them would just at each other's throats every other day, if not every day. On the 13th of September 2007, Rose and Kenneth both decided that they are going to go to Bank Bentuk. They are going to sign a loan, and unfortunately, this was the last time that Rose would be seen alive, because on the 14th of September 2007, which is literally the next day, according to Kenneth, Rose woke up very violent that day. She was like, today you are going to die. She locked the house and then she had the key. This is when she went to go get a knife because she wanted to stab Kenneth. Kenneth was in the process of trying to look for the key of the house so that he can open the house and run outside. But unfortunately, Rose was faster and she got to him first with the knife. Both of them were fighting over the knife. Rose was trying to stab him and he was trying to take the knife from Rose. While they were busy trying to get the knife from each other, Rose accidentally somehow managed to slit her own throat. The fight kind of continued until Rose lost too much blood and she started to feel weak. The only other person who we can get the truth from is dead. So all this we are getting it from Kenneth. He sat down with her in his arms and then he was holding her in his arms, trying to cradle her, trying to help her, but eventually she actually succumbed to her injuries and Rose lost her life on the 14th of September 2007. That night, Kenneth did not sleep. He had Rose in his arms until the wee hours of the morning, and in the morning he got ready. He attended a funeral. Like, he did not just murder his wife. Well, in fact, before he went to the funeral, he took Rose's phone and he texted one of Rose's friends and told her that Rose would not make it to the funeral because Rose is not feeling well. She would not make it to the funeral, and the friend actually believed he was supposed to be attending this funeral with Rose. When he went to the funeral the next day, well, people were not questioning him as to where Rose was, because he already sent text messages from Rose's phone to let the people know that Rose is not gonna be there. So people were not expecting her. Kenneth, after the funeral, went back home and he started panicking. The body was still in the house. There was blood everywhere. He wanted to get rid of the evidence. He wanted to get rid of the body. During that time, when Kenneth murdered his wife, this is the time where the B1 butcher, the Namibia's serial killer, was actively killing. He was still active. He decided to take that body, dismember it, and then discard the body parts the same way the B1 butcher was busy doing. The B1 butcher was operating in the areas of Windhoek, Okahanja, and Rehoboth. Kenneth was in Grootfontein. Now, do you guys see where the problem is? But Kenneth didn't care, because he felt like, no, this body that he just dismembered of his wife is also going to be linked to the B1 butcher, right? He took off her head, he decapitated her, he took off her limbs, he cut off her arms into 2 parts. The pieces were cut into, her body were cut into 10 pieces. That's what I know. The legs were divided into 2, with the thighs and the lower part of the leg. That one was divided. The thighs were separated, the lower part of the leg was separated, and the feet were attached to the lower part of the leg. Same with the arms too. The arms were also cut off, but the arms were also cut in 2. Rose was divided into 10 parts by him. He dismembered her into 10 pieces, but he decided to discard them in Grootfontein everywhere, wherever he can. He would dump them into dustbins, and it was just all over the place, all over the town. But some of the body parts, he discarded them at the mortuary. Remember that they were staying at the hospital, so he discarded them at the mortuary, behind the mortuary, in black plastic bags, discarded behind the mortuary. The torso was also found with latex gloves, the ones that he used when he was busy dismembering her. After he finished this, he took a compassionate leave and he traveled to Kenya. Now, when he was going to Kenya, obviously people were going to be asking him questions, because he was going to see Rose's family too. They were looking for Rose. Where's Rose? He told people that Rose didn't want to come. She was refusing to come. And then he changed his story and he said that Rose actually, because of the fact that she was still in the process of being appointed, she didn't want to take the risk of not being there when the appointment letter finally came through and she was appointed as a nurse. Because she was not working, she was just waiting for the hospital to say, yeah, you can come start. So she was in that process. So he told the family that she didn't want to be away while, what if she was called to come start and she's away? She didn't want that to happen. When Kenneth traveled to Kenya, he traveled on the 24th of September 2007. This is the date that he departed from Namibia to Kenya without Rose. While Kenneth was in Kenya, he went to go see Rose's mom. Rose's mom obviously asked him, where is my daughter? At first, he said that she didn't want to travel with him, and then he changed his story. He said that the money that they had was not enough to cover the expense of 2 people. So it was too expensive for both of them to travel at the same time. That is why Rose decided to stay at home. Rose's mother was like, okay, cool, but can I talk to Rose? He said that no, she cannot talk to Rose simply because Rose changed numbers and Rose was not having the same number anymore, and he did not have Rose's new number because, well, him and Rose are having problems right now. They are not on good terms. They are really, really, really not on good terms. So Rose's mother just believed him, and that was that. Guys, absolutely nothing in this world stays hidden forever. Nothing stays a secret forever, okay? What stays in the dark eventually comes to light. And on the 30th of October 2007, Kenneth Bunge Orina got arrested. He was detained by the Grootfontein police officers. They went into that hospital and they put that man in handcuffs and they drove him to the station. They were arresting him for the murder of Rose because they had found Rose's body. And at this point, her body parts were deeply and badly decomposed. She was almost beyond recognition. The police officers, they have their DNA, they have their technology, so they ran fingerprints and they ran DNA samples, they collected all the body parts. And first, when they were collecting the body parts, remember, the B1 butcher was still active. So the first thing that they had to make sure was, do all these body parts belong to the same person? They ran the DNA, and then the DNA sample test results came back saying that yes, it did indeed belong to the same person. So they were like, okay, cool. Now, who is this person? Again, they took fingerprints, they ran fingerprints into the database, they ran fingerprints into the Kenyan database, because at this point they were getting like a hint of Kenneth and the fact that he was Kenyan. So they were like, you know what, this man's wife is missing and everybody's looking for him. So maybe if he's Kenyan, then she could be Kenyan too. So let's give it to the Kenyan government so that they can run the fingerprints through their database. And then yes, it came back that the fingerprints belonged to Rose, right? So now at this point, the police officers knew that, okay, Rose is indeed deceased, and her husband knows exactly what had happened to her. So they took him into custody and they started asking him questions. At first, Kenneth actually confessed. This is how we know of the altercation that happened on the 14th, whereby Rose accidentally slit her throat, which also the court kind of feels like it's not true, because this man, after he confessed, he denied everything. He was like, I did not say that. He actually just retracted his statement, and now the police didn't have a confession anymore, because at first he confessed and then he changed, saying that it was not him who had murdered his wife. This man maintained his innocence up to today. He said that, or he is saying that, he did not do, or he did not have anything to do with Rose's death. But of course, he stood trial, and then the court found him guilty because the evidence was just too overwhelming. First of all, he couldn't get his story straight. And the witnesses also testified saying, especially Rose's mom. Rose's mom testified saying that the man couldn't even look at her in the eye when he was telling her all these stories. He was acting shifty. He was, nervous. You can see the nervousness. He was sweating and all that. Every time the topic of Rose came up, he was just uneasy. And this is when she knew that something bad had happened to her daughter. So because of the fact that Kenneth couldn't just keep his story straight, like his story just kept on shifting and changing and shifting and changing. And also the DNA, the gloves, the latest gloves that were found with the torso behind the mortuary in black plastic bags. Yes, so that one was also run. The DNA samples on that glove was also run into the system, and it came back positive with his DNA, meaning that his DNA was also on those gloves. So it was just, the evidence was overwhelming. Although they actually went to his house and then he had cleaned the house. He had spotlessly cleaned the house. Another thing that was also very damning, it was the fact that, remember when I said that Kenneth was a theater nurse? He was a theater nurse working with a surgeon, right? So when the body parts were found, the forensics as well as the police officers came to the conclusion that whoever dismembered this body knows about the human anatomy. He knows where to cut, he knows where to put the cuts. They know what they are doing, meaning that it could be somebody who is quite familiar or who is in the medical profession. Remember, this is what I said with the B1 butcher? Yeah, same. So because of the fact that Kenneth worked as a theater nurse with the surgeons in the surgery room, he would actually have an idea of how to dismember a body, because he sees this on a regular basis. He sees people being opened up and cut and stuff like this. So he knows. When they were sentencing him, they actually said that his actions were of Dallas directors. Guys, if you can remember the Manfred case, the one where the man set his girlfriend on fire, if you can remember the case, you can remember that I was talking about Dallas eventualis. Well, we have a new terminology, guys. We have Dallas directors. He actually had the intention of killing her. There are some people who they kill a person by accident, right? But he actually had the intention of killing him. Kenneth was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This case, It was tragic. But tell me, guys, what do you think about today's case? For me, I personally feel like Kenneth probably thought he was gonna get away with this. Why would you think you're gonna get away with this? Come on now. But anyway, that's it, guys. Do not forget to subscribe, do not forget to like, do not forget to comment. Tell me what you think, tell me what you feel. Talk to me, let's just talk about this. Thank you so much, guys, for spending your time with me. Your girl Ushi, I'm signing out. I gotta go, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.